Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanissia, this is the Woolly Worker Knitting Podcast and today is episode 13. I am back from my holiday. I am so excited and so eager to film. I thought I wouldn't have that much to catch you up on, and I'm gonna spoil you right here. There's 3 finished objects and they're all socks. But there's quite a lot of works in progress and like new cast-ons and plans, so I still think that if you don't like socks, you'll enjoy this episode. I have quite a lot of like other thoughts and things to catch you up on, but I did all of that in my knit and chat. So I talk about the knit night that I organized, it was really nice, and I talk about the yarn I got in Belgium and kind of my plans for the YouTube channel. So if you want to catch up with that, please go watch that video, it would mean a lot to me, and thank you so much if you've watched it and you left a really nice comment on there. It means the world to me that you guys take the time of the day to let me know your thoughts and feelings on like what I talk about, and it's really encouraging. So thank you so much if you've left a lovely comment. And that way today's video can stay relatively on track, on focus, and clutter-free, I hope. And it should stay about the same time as usual, an hour, but who knows. I also wanted to quickly say the giveaway winner. I announced it in a previous episode, but just in case that they didn't see it, the winner for the giveaway for this beautiful lore yarn by the Fiber Co. and the pattern for the cabled vest from Iris Makes. The winner from that giveaway is Patricia Lieb 6565. I'll put the name here on the screen. If you could contact me with a UK postal address so I can get this yarny goodness to you. Thank you to everyone who participated. Don't worry, there will be more giveaways in the future because they're really fun to host and they've gone really well so far. Just one last announcement before I get into the topic of today's video. I have created a Ravelry group. I teased this in the previous video in Knit and Chat, and people were encouraging, saying that they would love to connect on Ravelry. It's easier sometimes than Instagram. So I worked really hard behind the scenes and I created this space, and I'm a bit nervous to launch it. It's been open for a few days, but I didn't announce it anywhere because I was wanting to make sure it was great. And there's still some tweaks that I'm probably going to make in the future, but it would mean the world to me if you joined the Ravelry group. The link will be below if you just click join, and then you'll be a member, and then that's where I will announce future giveaways, knit-alongs, knit nights, and other plans I have for the future. So yeah, let me know what you think of the group. If there's anything that you think could be improved or like new ideas for the group, then there's a dedicated channel that I've created, which is called like the ideas box or something, where you can just give feedback and it'll all be gathered in the one space. So yeah, I hope to see you all there on Ravelry. And don't worry, a Ravelry video is coming very soon. I'm gonna film a video on like how to best use Ravelry and like all the hidden features, so I can't wait to show you all of that. As always, anything that I talk about, yarn, patterns, people, everything will be linked below in the description, and also you can follow me obviously then on Ravelry and on Instagram at thewoollyworker, same as here on YouTube. If you want to connect over there, send me a message, suggest a collaboration. Always happy to hear your ideas and to receive messages. So yeah, let's get into today's video then, shall we? So you may have noticed what I am wearing. This is the Home Camisole by Kadri, and I knitted that last month. I made this in the Rarum Natura Penelope, which is a DK weight merino silk base, like 90%, 10% silk, and in the color Or Rose, which is like rose gold. And at first I wasn't sure about this color, but I think as far as summery colors go, you know, that isn't neutral or dark, I'm quite happy with this one. Like, it does add a pop of color, a pop of brightness, but it's not too out there. It still feels kind of neutral because it's like a dusty rouge sort of thing. And I think maybe it brings out like the pink in my cheeks or whatever. Like, I think it's okay as far as colors. It's not like a peach pink that I don't like. So yeah, and then the fit, I was complaining before about how I felt it was a bit too tight and the armholes were not low enough, but it has relaxed a bit with wear. I do find it very comfortable. Right now it's perfect because it's not like the warmest right now in Scotland, so it's okay to be wearing this merino on my skin. But yeah, because the shoulders are like out and like it's got a deep enough V, I do feel like cool and refreshed. Like, it's really nice. And also I feel very comfortable in it because the armhole, like the straps are quite wide, the coverage is good as well, so it doesn't feel as revealing as like a spaghetti strap top, and I'm wearing this without a bra right now, and I'm feeling confident, like I can go out and go to the shops and everything, so yeah, I'm really happy with this summer knit. But if you want to hear more about this camisole, then you can check out the previous podcast episode 12, I believe, where I talk about this in more detail. So let's just get into all the new objects then. So my first finished object is a pair of socks, like I said, it'll all be socks. And I made these socks because of a reason that I will tell you in the next finished object. So these are the Hygge Season socks by Sari Nordland. My camera is facing the other way now, so I don't know exactly what you can see, but I'll be putting some photos as always and modeling b-roll shots. And I'm really, really happy with these. So this is a pattern by Sari Nordland. They were made on 275 needles. I think the pattern recommends 3 or 3.25, but I sized down because I really like a dense sock, and I think it adds durability, and also my gauge is usually looser, so I kind of preemptively did that. The original pattern asks you to do a tubular bind off, but cast on, but I didn't. I just did a German twisted cast on, and it's very stretchy and elastic. As you can see, the socks like roll up, and then you just turn them down. It's got this really, really nice traveling like cable detail at the top, and then the toe, like you'll see in the photos, is a ribbed toe, which I hadn't seen before, and I think it's a lovely, lovely detail. It's a slip stitch heel, flap and gusset. I followed this to pattern, like I said, except for the cast on, and also I added a little bit less height to the heel flap. I thought it was like plenty already, so I did one less repeat for that, and then therefore I picked up one less stitch when it came to doing like the picking up the stitches at the heel. This is a one size pattern, which at first I was a little disappointed about. I thought the least we could try to do is like 2 sizes for socks, but they do fit me and also my boyfriend, but granted we don't have that like vastly different feet sizes, and this is rib, so obviously it's going to be stretching out or stretching back in to fit the recipient. But this makes it an excellent Christmas gift pattern, like for sure. This is not going to be my only pair. I will make these for my boyfriend. Spoiler alert, I hope he's not watching this. I will probably make these for maybe like his dad. And it's a DK weight sock, so it was really, really fast. The reason I didn't enjoy making these as much was because of my 2.75mm needles. I thought it was a little hard on the hands. I'll put these down. I don't know how long to keep these on camera for. Yeah, I thought that it was a bit tight on the hands, but I'm really happy with the density and the gauge that it gave me. I think I nailed the foot length and like the leg length. I'm really, really happy with these. And I used stainless yarn Perfect. I can't remember the shade, but I'll put the number in the description as always, and also on my Ravelry project page. And I had like 9 grams left of my 3 balls, which I bought on sale, by the way. So this cost less than £10. I'll put the price here below. Like always, I always put the price of my finished items just to give an idea, and I always calculate it like to the gram, just to give you context on what those numbers actually represent. So, and also like if I buy on sale, then I include the fact that it was on sale in that final price. So really affordable project. It has nylon, that yarn, so it's going to be much more durable than, for example, Peruvian Highland wool, which I know tons of people, me included, have used for the Sunday socks, and spoiler alert, I broke my Sunday socks, like they tore down at the toes, which was to be expected because the gauge was loose and I didn't have any nylon in the yarn. It was a bad yarn choice. I don't know why Petite Knit recommended it. So stainless yarn Perfect, definitely recommend for sock yarn so far. I've not worn these a huge amount because they're like autumn socks, but just you wait until autumn. And the yarn is very plump, bouncy, round, soft. I think it might be superwash. So yeah, I'm really happy with the sock yarn and with the sock and with the pattern. Like always, Sari Nordland's patterns are amazing. Nothing bad to say about them. I'd make this pattern again. It was a success. That's it. So I'll just move on then to the next project. I had this yarn in my stash for over a year. It was hand-dyed. And I've been buying a lot of hand-dyed recently, and I've been telling myself if I'm buying hand-dyed, I need to be using hand-dyed, like make it make sense. And I need to prove to myself that I make hand-dyed projects, and I just don't like the balls as they are as kind of hand-dyed yarn. Like, I love that, but do I like projects using it? So I had this beautiful hand-dyed, and I wanted a contrast color for the heel flap or toe or whatever, and the only color in Stash that I thought to use as a contrast was this color, the chocolate brown, but I didn't know how much I would have left after doing the Hygge socks. So I did the Hygge socks first, realized I had 9 grams left, realized that was maybe barely enough to just do a heel contrast, and then I'd be using every single last meter and inch of that yarn. So I thought, okay, let's do that. So I did those Hygge socks, then I cast on this pair. And as you can see, I really just did a tiny little heel, yeah, a little heel with the leftover. And yeah, I really just used every inch of it, so that's quite successful. These socks are the fish lip kiss heel pattern once again. They're also DK weight socks, obviously, because I used the DK sandness yarn. And then so I used the hand-dyed yarn double. It's fingering, so I held it double to get this DK, and then I made them toe up, and I used like the instructions for the pattern vestigial, which I'll put below, but it's basically a mistake rib pattern, and I only did it on the front of the sock. I didn't do it at the back of the leg or at the bottom of the foot, so you'll see in the photos. And it's quite an interesting pattern, like the mistake rib. I had never really heard of it before, and it's really, really bouncy and plump and squishy is the word, yeah. So it's quite thick as well. It's gorgeous. It's really, really nice. And this would be lovely for a cowl, for example, or a hat maybe. I did them toe up, and I used the instructions for the fish lip kiss heel that tell you when to stop increasing for your toe up. I also used a nice little tip from Nimble Needles on how to make a knit from back that is mirrored on the other side, and it involves like twisting a stitch and stuff. So I put that link in my Ravelry project page if you want to feel super extra. Did the leg of the foot, stopped where you're meant to stop for the heel according to the fish lip kiss heel pattern, and then I tried to use as much as I could of like my sandness yarn perfect, and as you can see, very sadly I ran out of yarn. You can see the heel doesn't go all the way to like that point, so I ran out like 2 sort of short rows before I was meant to finish the heel, but it really isn't that noticeable. Like I've posted these on Instagram and people have said that it didn't look like there was a mistake until I mentioned it. So it's a success, and it's obviously like on a heel. It's no one ever sees that. I don't know why there's so much hair on my socks. Oh my god. So I'm happy because and then I continued on the leg of the sock. Like I said, just doing it like for the front stitches, not the back. By the way, my stitch count for these DK socks, it was 52 stitches overall. And I used 2.75 needles again because, like I said, I was really happy with the gauge that gave me. Then at the cuff, I did a 2x2 twisted rib because I thought that the 2x2 would flow nicely with the flow of the like mistake rib, which is also worked in pairs of 2s. And then I was gonna bind off in pattern because I was afraid that it was gonna be too loose, but then it was too tight, so I undid that, and then I used the Rook bind off, which I used on my single malt cuffs, if you want to check that out. And I also put the link in the description, in the Ravelry project page, so I won't go into too much detail. But it gives a really stretchy, but also doesn't flare cuff, which I'm really, really pleased with that, because that was always my worry with toe-up socks is I don't know what bind-off to use, but you can see that this is extremely straight. I love this. Like, this is perfect and neat. And also I was worried about not knowing when to stop for the heel, but using the fish lip kiss heel gave me a really good size sock. However, I'm talking like this as if I love these socks. I actually don't love these socks. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I think that although I chose this pattern because I didn't want to do a boring vanilla sock for this hand-dyed, but I didn't want the pattern that I chose to clash too much with the hand-dyed, and I think I didn't do the best job with choosing that. I think I should have just done a normal like 3x1 rib or even 2x2 rib, or even just vanilla. I think that this is too much. There's too much happening at the top. It's too squishy. It's too thick because that mistake rib is very squishy, and then it's already a DK weight sock, so I think that's just too much. I don't like the length of these. I wish that they were taller, but I ran out of yarn, obviously. Obviously, I wish that I had like enough. I wish I had enough yarn to go all the way to not have this like weird little gap. And I think that they're also, yeah, they're too big. I did 52 stitches, like I said. Maybe I should have done 48 or 50. So I'm not super pleased with them, and also they cost a lot of money because this hand-dyed yarn was £25, if I remember correctly, and I used all of it, and then a bit of sandness yarn. So here's the total price of this pair of socks. You can see it's not insignificant, and I just feel meh about them. So that was my first time doing a DK pair of socks with hand-dyed. I wanted to see what the fuss was about, whether it was a good economical way of like using my hand-dyed sock yarn, and verdict is I don't actually really like the DK socks. I like these DK socks because it feels like on purpose, super chunky. But those, like, it wasn't on purpose that they're so chunky. So I think I'm gonna stick to making fingering weight socks with the hand-dyed. And that's okay. I'm happy I have these. I will wear them as house socks. It's just, every time I do a pair of socks, I learn something new, so that's really nice. So the lessons learned from that is that be more careful about choosing a pattern that goes with the hand-dyed, be more careful about finding the right amount of like negative ease and stitch counts, and make sure that you're happy with like the length of the leg, so that it's not an awkward point on your leg. Okay, and then last finished object, and then we'll move on to the whips. I'm really sorry if you don't like socks. The timestamps will have been in the description anyway, so you can skip ahead to like the works in progress. But the last finished item I think is the one I'm the most happy about, and it's a lovely, lovely pair of socks that is also using hand-dyed yarn. So here they are. Yay! I'll be showing B-roll as well because, like I said, I'm not super sure like how much to show these. They're quite long, so this one's I just did a contrast toe and heel, but not the cuff, and I'm really happy with that. I think it's quite nice. Because they're a rib anyway, and then this is a rib cuff, I think it's really nice to just keep the same color for that and not use a contrast. I did the German twisted cast on. I did 20 rows of twisted 1x1 rib, which I think was too much. I was trying that out to see if I liked it, but I don't think I do, so I prefer a 15 round rib, which is what I usually normally do. So 15 is good, don't try and change it. So I did 20. Then I did 60 rounds of 3x1 rib. I did the heel flap and gusset with a slip stitch heel. And then I also did around 60 rounds on the foot with the rib just at the top and just stockinette at the bottom. And then I just did a wedge toe. So it's just my own pattern, like, but I've just said it to you. So yeah, didn't really follow a pattern. And yeah, I love these. I think what I love the most is the yarn. You can see here like what it looks like on like stockinette. It's gorgeous. And then also on the rib. And I think this is what I was talking about earlier with how this rib is so not clashing with the hand-dyed yarn. This yarn, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of colors. And the rib just highlights it and works well with it. I also asked on my Instagram what contrast heel and toe I should do. I had two different leftovers. One was from my stone socks, it was a sand color, and one was from my intersection socks, and it was a taupe color. And people voted for the sand, but I thought that this would be more practical because it's darker, so it'd get dirty less. And then also, I thought that the taupe, not only does it appear as a color in the hand-dyed, but also it felt like a mix of all the different colors. Like if you mixed all of those paints in a bucket, you'd get that taupe color. The yarn is from Nervous Fiber. I don't know if I've mentioned. She's a wonderful, wonderful hand dyer in Scotland here in Glasgow. She's going on maternity leave soon. I think her shop is closed right now, but definitely keep an eye out for her in future events, upcoming shows. I really hope that she will come back with more yarny goodness, and I stocked up on a bit of her yarn before she went because she had a generous sale. So I bought this yarn on sale actually. It was £16 for the skein, and I only used half of it. So here's the price of these socks, which is so much cheaper than these ones, and yet I 100% prefer these. So yeah, that's good to know as well. I made these on 2mm needles, which is my favorite needle size for fingering weight socks. However, I did 56 stitches and it's too small. like I already know that I'm a very loose knitter, so I always size down and everything with the needles, but that was too much. I think I should have done 64, because they do fit, they completely go over my heel, like that's completely fine. And I quite like how they hug my foot, but the stitches at the top are stretched out to the max, and I'm worried about durability and about them breaking and like just the strain on that. But I am happy I learned. Like, we're all learning lessons. I've been trying to find the perfect sock recipe and learning more about negatives and the perfect amount of that. And I've been using a lot of calculators online, you know, using my gauge, because I've made a lot of socks now with different stitch counts, different needle sizes, and different stitch patterns, like rib, non-rib, other like lace, cables. And I really want to understand my gauge more and understand the sock patterns and create my own. So if I'm like, I've kind of recalculated from this mistake, and I should have done 64 stitches to give me a better fitting sock. But I'll still wear these a lot, and also because it's superwash. I think it's like a merino nylon blend sock yarn in the colorway Nimbus, by the way. Because they're superwash and I've already washed these once, they have already relaxed a little bit, and so I'm thinking that that's the problem I usually have with my socks, is that at first they fit, but then they become too large, especially the West Yorkshire spinner socks that I love and wear all the time. So I thought that if I started out really tightly, then with wear, they would then fit me how I wanted, as opposed to like the opposite. So I guess I'll feed back again at the end of the year when I'll have worn these a little bit more to tell you whether they stretch out to where I wanted them to, or whether they'll still always have that feeling of being like one size too small. These were my like on-the-go socks that I took to Belgium. I finished the first sock in Belgium, casted on the second one, and then finished it like soon after coming back. The rib pattern was really nice to break out the boring stockinette. It was the right amount of interesting to keep me engaged, like when we were on public transport. I knitted a lot on public transport in Belgium. And it was easy to memorize, obviously didn't need a pattern, just kept track of like steps I was doing for the first sock with stitch markers, so I could replicate it on the second sock, and keeping notes on my phone and everything, and trying it on as I was going. So as always, the first sock takes longer because you're keeping track of all those things and trying it on, but then when you're making the second sock, it just flies by because you're just following your own notes. I really like the proportion of the 60 round leg and 60 round foot. Like I said, just wish the rib was a tad smaller, and I really like just the contrast heel and toe. So again, lots of lessons learned from this pair of socks. We're getting much closer to my perfect sock, and I'm really, really happy and excited about that fact. I've been on a sock kick, as you can imagine. And yeah, my plans for the rest of this hand-dyed is to make a headband by using the yarn double. I have enough yardage to make a nice little headband with a twist at the front. I'll either make another like Pico Edge headband from Laura Penrose, or I'll make a Frida headband, which is like double knitting, and it also has a twist. So stay tuned to see that. I think I want to cast this on quite soon, while I'm still like, otherwise I just won't get back to those leftovers. So yeah. Okay, let's talk about my works in progress. The very first one, I won't even show you, I'll just mention. I was knitting on my Moonset Tee by Ozetta in my knit and chat, and I've not done much progress on that, so I won't show it. I'm just literally just still doing the body and stockinette, so it visually doesn't look any different than before. I have tried it on, however, and it fits. I quite like it. I love the softness of the yarn. I'm hoping to block it out a little bit wider. I think it's a bit more fitted than I wanted, which I knew based on my gauge. I didn't want to open the gauge up more because I didn't want it to be see-through, and I made the extra small. I probably should have done the small, but I know that for next time. I think I'm happy to have a fitted one, and I love the way that the v-neck looks on me. And then next time, because there will be a next time, even though this project is taking forever, I want to make one in pure silk, probably the Dusty Artichoke colorway, and I want to make that in a small size to get like a more relaxed tee. So yeah, I'll just have two different t-shirts, but I'm really happy with the way that this one fits and looks on me. It's taking forever though, like it's also on 275 needles, so it is taking a while, but it's really nice TV knitting. And once I finish my first ball of yarn, I'll pick up for the sleeves, and I'll break it up a bit and probably motivate me to work on it more because I'll be closer to finishing, and it'll look like a real t-shirt. And once I do the sleeves, I'll probably weave in all the ends as well, to have all those like seams to hide my ends in on the inside. So the next project then that I will actually show you and talk about more is the one that's been taking most of my time. I showed you the swatch in the last video. It's for the Jones sweater by Gregoria Fibers, and I'm using the yarn from BC Garn Loch Lomond in the colorway Sand, which is 19. So here is the yarn. It's a nice pinky beige, which, to be honest, not my color. I used it because that's what the designer had. I quite like the flecks of like orangey red in it, but I don't think I love the main color. But I tried it on and I do like it on me. It's just not going to be a favorite. And here's then the actual project. Let me hold it up for you. So as you can see, it's got 2 entire sleeves. They're very tapered. 2 saddle shoulders, obviously. This is like the flagship of this item. Sleeve is done, and then I'm just doing the body. And I only have like 15 more rounds to do on the body, and then it'll be twisted rib. So this will definitely be a finished item in the next podcast episode. I can't wait to show you. I'm really happy with the neck. I think it's a really nice, tight, twisted rib, chunky collar. I'm happy with my pickup. I'm really happy with the detail as well. That gives this really crisp line where you pick up for the stitches. I might steal that for future designs because I love how clean those lines look. I like the saddle shoulder. There's a lot of ends to weave in though, so that's going to be fun. But the yarn is woolen spun and like lofty and plump and felty. So it looks like it's going to be very easy to weave in the ends, and I'm not worried at all about them slipping out of place. Like, it'll be easy to weave in those ends. There's just a lot of them to do. My gauge was quite different, I guess, flattening the round. I might put a photo, but I was rowing out quite significantly on the front panel because you work this flat at first, back and front. Then you join in the round at the underarm, and then you work the body in the round. And you could see like a big difference between my rows of knitting and my rows of purling, but I'm really not that bothered about it. Like, it was a fun thing to notice, like, oh, I guess I am rowing out. But I know it'll block out a lot, and no one will see. Like, it's fine. I'm really not obsessed with a perfect tension on this, but I really like my perfect tension on these socks, for example. Like, it's much more important, I guess, in finer gauges, I think. Whereas the big, plump, lofty yarn here, like, it's kind of bound to have irregularities, I'm thinking. The yarn is really soft, and I love it. I have a sweater quantity to make the Harlow sweater by Kadri, which I'll do probably, like, in autumn. And also, I think that it's a good enough yarn for my boyfriend to wear, and he'll tolerate it. So I'll make him a boyfriend sweater in this. Maybe for Christmas, who knows, because they have a really nice navy tweedy color, which I think will suit him very well. They also have those like dark browns. I know, look at me being all gender specific, browns and navies for boys, but whatever. I, however, had to go down 2 needle sizes to get the gauge. The designer used a 4mm, I'm on 3.5, and I still wasn't on gauge, so I could have gone even smaller. I should have gone even smaller, but I really wouldn't have been happy with a much denser fabric. Like, this is already quite dense, and I was really happy with this fabric, so I kept it, did all the math, because my stitch gauge and row gauge was not good, so I plugged all of these numbers in my handy dandy like Excel spreadsheet that helps me understand what's gonna happen if I like use those numbers, and I decided to do the extra small, which would still be a bit bigger than the extra small measurements of the designer. So I should have done a size small, but I cast on for the extra small, and it would give me a size between extra small and small. However, I forgot to take that into account when doing the sleeves, and I didn't reduce the sleeve stitch counts, and I should have reduced it by like 8 or 10 stitches. So my sleeves are a bit larger than what they should have been, so that's on me for not accounting for that. Because the row gauge was off, I had to accommodate for that when I was doing pickups. So if the designer was saying, for example, pick up 2 out of every 3 stitches, that wouldn't work for you because you don't have that many rows or you have like too many. So I recalculated all the pickup rates and also the sleeve decreases. For example, let's say that the designer was like pick up every 7 rounds, decrease every 7 rounds. That wouldn't work for me because my gauge was different, the row gauge. So I recalculated that, which ended up telling me that I had to do a decrease round every 4.5, no, every 3.5 round. But that obviously, you can't do that. You can't do a half round. So what I did was that I did a decrease every 3 round and every 4 round, alternating. So like 3 decrease, 4 decrease, 3 decrease, 4 decrease, like something like that. Which was kind of annoying in a way to keep track of, but it made me feel very like I'm following the rules, like I'm following the math. And also it was very like addictive to keep trying to reach the next round of increases, of decreases. Sorry. The sleeves are a bit of a slog because there's a lot of stitches and then a lot of rounds decreasing. I could do the first sleeve without magic loop, but I had to use magic loop for the second sleeve for some reason. The twisted rib, I don't mind doing. I'm kind of looking forward to doing it on the body, like I really don't mind. The bind off, I did the sewn bind off. I didn't do the 2 setup rounds that you need for the tubular, and I'm happy with that. I think it'd be a bit too chunky with my very like thin needles. For the rib, I used 275 again. At first, I really wasn't happy with the project when I tried it on. I had done one sleeve and I put it on and there was way too much bunching at the underarm, like so much extra fabric. I was like, what is happening? And then I thought maybe it was because of my row gauge issues, like maybe it was on me, maybe it's a design feature of like the saddle shoulder, they're meant to be very oversized, and I thought maybe with blocking those issues might transform or like disappear, hopefully. Then I did the second sleeve and I was feeling better. Like it does seem to have evened things out. It's pulling, you know, like the sleeves are being pulled down on my shoulders, which is stretching out that extra fabric, so it's not as extra anymore. And because I said my fabric is a little stiff, but once I block it, it'll hopefully relax and flow a little nicer. But I have noticed on the project photos, both from the designer and other people who have knitted this project, that it does seem very oversized and a lot of extra fabric, and it just, like, the underarm where you join, I calculated it, like, there's no schematic in the pattern, so I had to calculate it, but, like, I'm following what the pattern had said, and it does seem quite low for an underarm, so it's just inevitable that there would be a lot of extra fabric. So I'm not super pleased with the fit. I'm going to be completely honest. I think this is just going to be a very comfy, oversized jumper that I wear inside the house. I mean, I don't mind taking it out. Like, I don't mind wearing things that don't, like, fit me. Like, I don't mind wearing oversized things outside. But that one just seems like it's a bit less intentional oversized. And a bit more like a mistake. But I'll see. I'm reserving my judgment. However, I was not happy with the lack of information in the pattern. Like, it has a lot of explanations and it's easy to follow the structure for, like, the beginning when you're doing all those constructy bits with the saddle shoulders. Like, I had never done it before, and I was following what the designer was telling me to do, and everything was going well. However, when it was time to pick up for the arm sleeves, that was a bit more tricky. It seems like the designer glossed over important bits, so I just had to trust the process and kind of just, like, make a decision and stick with it. And then also, there's no measurements except from bust circumference, maybe length, but there's no, like, underarm measurements, yoke measurements, and most importantly, sleeve measurements. There's no information on how long the sleeve is. And you can obviously calculate that by, you know, using the gauge of the designer and the number of rounds and decreases in the sleeve. But, like, should you have to do that? No, I think the sleeve length should have been included. And that made my life, like, much harder. Because of my gauge issues, I had to calculate a lot of things. And usually it's not a problem if the designer provides you, like, with half of the numbers, because then you just plug in your numbers and you have your answer. But here I had to first get her numbers to then plug in my numbers. So I'm just a little bit disappointed with that. It's a new, like, relatively new pattern. It came out, like, this year, or, like, this winter at least. So So, you know, if this was the designer's sort of first patterns finding her footing, I wouldn't have minded, but this is just like, I hope that in the future, in her next patterns, she puts more measurements in the patterns, and like the golden standard would be a schematic, which more and more now I seek out pattern designers who include schematics in their patterns, either in the photos on Ravelry, like before you buy it, or feeling that in the pattern. And hopefully people can mention that in the comments on Ravelry and say like the schematics were included. So yeah, that was a little rant on schematics and measurements. Lastly, I will say that the designers suggest doing an improved slip knit, and I've taken that advice to heart. Like, I've adopted it, and I'm now using it for all of my like future projects. So usually the slip knit, you do like slip knit wise, and then knit through back loop. But the improved one, you slip the first one knitwise, slip the second one purlwise, and then knit through the back loop, and it just sits a bit more nicely, mirrors the knit two together better, and is flatter on the surface of your knitting. So yeah, that's a cool, neat little trick to improve the knitting and make the finishing of my pieces a bit more polished. And I thought I'd let you know in case you want to adopt that too. Maybe do a swatch and see the difference, although there's tons of videos on YouTube that demonstrate this technique. Next, work in progress, I cast it on with my new yarn that I got in Belgium. This is Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the color Haze. It's a really lovely like off-white that is kind of like grayish and almost like lilac pinkish. It's like a cold color that is simply gorgeous, and I'm obsessed with it. It's really, really beautiful and kind of hard to photograph and show. And I'm following one of Sari Nordland's patterns. I've been like really into her patterns lately, sock wise and like tops wise. She has a lot of sales as well, like for summer patterns and winter patterns, so I usually get a good deal on those. And she's currently hosting a summer top knit along, so this will be my entry. So I'm making the Kutar top. Don't know if you can see this. So here's the front panel. I finished this in a few days. It was very addictive, and I have now casted on the second panel, and it's the exact same thing as that. And then you just like put them both like that, join in the round, make the straps, and that's it. Like I said, the beginning was very addictive for the front yoke, and then I got like second panel syndrome where it took me a long time to cast on the back. And this is one of the most complicated lace patterns I've ever had to do. So I'm absolutely having to look at my screen the whole time, which is kind of nice. Like, it feels very, very satisfying. I'm very proud of myself and my skills as a knitter. I keep on looking at it like, I made this. Like, this is insane. It's inspired by Japanese lace design, Sari has said. You do a provisional cast on at the top, and my tip is to use a smaller needle size to do the first couple rounds to avoid them stretching out, so I did that. I'm doing the main lace on 275 needles, and then I'm also going to do the body on 275. Sari recommends using like a larger size for the body, like, and smaller for the lace, but I've decided to just do the 275 for everything, which is already like smaller needles than recommended. I think the recommended yarn was a sport, but a lot of people have been doing this in pure silk and just like sizing down one needle size. I think Amy from Knits is also doing this camisole. I think she's using Linne by Sennes Garn, and she also got like second panel syndrome. But yeah, I am doing more modifications than her though, because I am going to be casting on less stitches at the underarm to get less ease. And I know what you're going to say, Vanissia, that's what you did for your other two camisoles and you hated it. I'll be more careful this time. And also, people have said like a lot in Ravelry that normally what you're meant to be doing after this lace is you're meant to keep doing in stockinette before you join at the underarm. But a lot of people have said just join immediately after the lace is over. So that's what I'll do. It's still attached to the yarn right now, so once I've done the back, I'll kind of put it on myself and like visualize. Yeah, even just here, I know that if I'm putting this like lace here, yeah, I'd want to just join, because it's already below what this home camisole is, and I could make the straps a bit longer and it will fall looser. So yeah, I really don't want to do any more stockinette after this lace. The lace is made with a lot of twisted stitches, like yarn overs. There's lace on the wrong side as well, so you need to be comfortable with that. Like, yeah, it really is a beast. But it's not hard, like you just have to pay a lot of attention. I've also blocked this, by the way. I don't know if you can tell, but I think this is like really, really nice. It's a gorgeous fabric. The stitches are really well defined. I'm happy with my yarn choice. And I hope to finish this camisole relatively soon because I would like to wear it before summer is over, which seems to be the case in the UK where we've had rain every day. Oh, the other thing is that I'm using my bamboo needles. I've received a set of bamboo interchangeable needles from my lovely, lovely boyfriend for my birthday. He gave me the Chayogu ones, and so I'm using the smallest size from that, the 275. And I will say, the jury is still out. It's definitely difficult for me, who has been using metal needles like for my entire knitting life. And so, like, I do miss the metal needles in a way, but I do feel like the wooden ones are satisfying to use, and they're very nice and smooth, although there is a lot of friction. Like, I thought that the stitches would slip less than the metal needles, but I didn't realize just how much more friction the bamboo brings. A bit too much, I think. And also, the join of the interchangeable needles is less good than on the metal needles. I don't know if it's like a default of my set in particular, or just like because that new set is like the twist ones, so like the swivel. Yeah, the swivel Chayogu. And I think the join is not as good than the metal ones, so like when I'm pulling up the stitches, they snag on it, and it just makes it much less nice to work with. But this might also be like the size needle I'm using, or like the pure silk maybe that's like catching on it. So again, reserving judgment for now. Interesting to add to my arsenal, and it will be handy to have the bamboo needles for like the pure silk and linen. I'm thinking in the future that might be handy. And I'm really grateful for this gift, and I've been wanting those forever, and they just come to a perfect point in my knitting journey because it's summer. But yeah, let me know, if you have the bamboo needles from Chayogu, do you also notice that the join is not as good? Or like, what's your experience with the bamboo needles? I think that's it for the haze. No, not the haze top. I always want to say that. The Kutar top in haze. I really need to get going with the back panel. I really want to do this. Like, I had so much steam at the beginning, and then like I stopped. But I'm gonna pick it back up. And it was really nice actually blocking it halfway through, like to appreciate this pattern. The lace really opened up nicely, and I can't stop staring at this. Like, this is one of the most beautiful things I've made, and it's just a panel. Anyway, third work in progress is kind of an impulsive thing. It doesn't feel like something that I was gonna do, but I have gotten some new yarn for my birthday, like I said, and like I showed in my knit and chat video. So that was a birthday gift, the haze, from my like grandma and mom. And then I've asked for some midnatssol by Camarose. Yeah. And this is the colorway Askegra, so 9502. I've been wanting to try this forever, since people have been recommending it as an alternative to mohair. It's one of the like thinnest alternatives, so it really replicates the yarn weight of mohair, as opposed to brushed alpaca, for example, or lace alpaca, which can be like thicker. This is 54% baby alpaca, 36% tencel, and 10% merino wool, I think. And so far, I am smitten. I love it. It's not like the softest, plushest thing ever that like cashmere is, or brushed alpaca is. Like, it still feels a little drier, but it doesn't feel prickly. Like, there's no prickly factor in this, which is great, because I get that with mohair. I completely fell victim to the mohair craze, like last year when I did my petite knit patterns, and I bought some like kid silk mohair and like tin silk mohair. And now I'm moving more and more towards a mohair-free life, and one of my goals is to try as many mohair alternatives as possible, and I will 100% feed that back to you guys because I know you guys are interested in that. A lot of people have said that they have sensitive skin, and like I think I do too, so I'm not all about the mohair anymore. That's character growth. But this is looking like a very, very good alternative. It's not too pricey compared to mohair. Like, you're not gonna have to fork out that much more or that much less. I can't remember exactly, but once I do that big sum up video, I will make sure to include the price in that comparison. They have a nice color selection of mostly neutrals. They've got quite a lot of nice neutrals and muted colors and some dark colors. They don't have a lot of bright colors, which, I mean, for me, that works out really well. They don't have that many blues, I think. Like, the vendors that I've looked at don't seem to be carrying a big blue collection. That's fine. This is like a neutral gray. They have some darker grays. They have a lot of beiges and whites. And I know I will use this in the future. Like, this is a winner. And so yeah, the reason why I bought this was because I had some very old yarn and stash, Drops Air, that I had bought for a September sweater by Petite. But I kind of fell out of love with that idea and that project. I think there's other brioche projects, like sweaters, that I want to do from other designers, and I don't need that like I don't need 100 brioche projects. So I didn't want to make the September sweater anymore, but I still had this yarn. I thought that this would be a good color match, and like, yeah, it is. So I wanted to do a big chunky project, easy win, wearable, soft, light and airy project. I thought a cardigan would be a good idea because I don't like doing them as much because of all the purling. So I thought that this would give me a cardigan faster. And I looked at Ravelry, like what big chunky things I could do, and the two patterns that came up were like the Novice cardigan by Petite and cardigan number 7 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And I went with My Favorite Things Knitwear, not really for any reason. Like, I think because I've bought too many Petite projects. Like, I think I've made 11 of her patterns so far, and I've made less of My Favorite Things Knitwear, so I thought I'd even the game a little bit. And neither of the patterns have short row shaping, which was a bummer, and lots of people were commenting on Ravelry about that fact and saying, like, either lamenting that they didn't have any and that they should have added them, or saying that they did add them and that they were happy with that. So I thought, okay, little challenge, Vanissia, you can do this now. You have gathered enough knitting knowledge and abilities. You can draft your own short row edition. And I had done this before for my lento. I had added some short rows to lower the back, like on my butt, and I was happy with that. So I thought that this shouldn't be hard to add short rows at the very top of the neck. So I thought I'd do that, and that'd be my challenge. So let me show you what I've got so far. I casted this on a few days ago, but it's been flying. Ta-da! So yeah, I've split for sleeves already, and I've just split for sleeves. So I don't know, you're probably not going to be able to tell. Well, I don't know. I've added 3 sets of short rows, so 6 rows in total, in addition to like what the pattern like states. So this gives me about 1 inch and some of extra fabric at the top of the back, and I'm pretty happy with them. I don't think you can see. This is going to be hard to show, so I probably will show you maybe once it's finished and like once the button band is picked up and everything. But I'm really, really pleased with that. And because I know that people are going to ask, and because I was really like desperately wanting someone to have done this, I have written the instructions for those short rows on my Ravelry project page, so that if you want to do this pattern and you want to add your short rows, you can do that. I was on Gauge with my midnatssol Drops Air combination, so I followed the instructions for the size small, to give me the ease that like was recommended. I'm usually pretty good with getting Gauge for My Favorite Things Knitwear patterns. And there's not that much to say. Like, it's a very, very beginner friendly pattern. It doesn't have short rows, doesn't have many decreases, like, or shaping. It's just like, it's not a compound raglan, it's just like raglans all the way. Then you split for sleeves, then you knit down the body and then rib, like, and same for sleeves, and then that's it. So, like, in a way, it's like, oh, I could have probably found the numbers myself and then drafted that cardigan with my Gauge, but on the other hand, I didn't want to have to think, except for the short rows, so I just bought the pattern, I'm following it, it doesn't even have abbreviations. I think it's very, very geared towards beginners, which is, like, that's fine. It just feels kind of like a step backwards for me to be knitting this pattern that is so beginner geared towards them. Grammar. But I need to tell myself, like, it's fine. Like, stop being so snobby. You are allowed to do beginner patterns. You don't need to always be doing the next Kutar top. So yeah, what a difference, you know? Like, they both scratch a different itch. This fabric is really soft. Like, I've tried it on as well. Like, yesterday I put it on after splitting for sleeves, and I was just so happy. Not only is it extremely soft and comfy, but like the fit seemed great and perfect. Like, just the right amount of ease so far. And it's hard to tell because this is like a tiny little mini cardigan with no length whatsoever. But it's very promising, and I'm really looking forward to having this as my at-home cardigan. I know I'm going to be reaching for this all the time. I've also decided to add something else, like as a little challenge, and because I actually, yeah, I am so... I just don't want it to be a beginner's project. So I've added the short rows, and then I'm going to add a faux seam, definitely on the body, and then maybe on the sleeves. I think I will do it on the sleeves. And I'm going to do the phony Elizabeth Zimmerman seam, which is something where you cast on one extra stitch, and then at the end you unravel that stitch all the way down, and then you have all these ladders, right? And the way that you'd normally do if you had dropped a stitch is you'd go up the ladder like one by one to re-knit your stitch all the way back up to where you had dropped it. But with Elizabeth's method, you're not taking up the ladders one by one, you're doing a combo of like 2 at a time, 1 at a time, 2 at a time, blah blah blah, which basically tightens everything back up. And I'm explaining this very badly, but I'm not giving a tutorial on how to do it. I'm just giving you an overview of what's going to happen. I'm excited to do that. I could have done a faux pearl seam, which I've done on 2 of my projects now. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with faux seams. But this is going to be quite different. And like the faux pearl seam doesn't add any structure, I don't think. And it also doesn't counteract bias, I don't think. But this seam that I'm talking about, the phony seam, I think will be more structural and might actually help with providing that like break up in stockinette that if your yarn was biased, like linen yarn, this might help. And this is particularly important because I've swatched with some Marilyn by Issachar, which is, I want to say 80% merino, 20% linen. And my swatch is biased. The stitches are strongly leaning towards like the left or the right. And this is making me a little wary about casting on the project that I wanted to do because it has a lot of stockinette. And I'm strongly considering adding a faux seam to help with that fact. Or even just like potentially knitting that whole project flat we could do. And then seaming it for real. Because it's the Monica Geller tee by Sari Nordland, and you're starting at the bottom, working in the round until like the underarm, and then doing the top and the back flat. So because half the tee is already flat, you could just do all the things flat. So that might be a future project, but we'll see. Anyway, I think that's it for cardigan number 7. I'm happy to be using stash yarn and also new yarn. It's like the best of both worlds. Actually, I did go down the needle size because she asked for 7mm and that doesn't come in my set. So I used 6.5. As always, I size down needles and that brought me on gauge. And the fabric is already quite like airy. And I am worried about the durability of Drops Air. I've not heard good things about it. Like as far as blown yarns go, it's not going to be as good quality maybe as like Sentinel's Garn Kos or Camarosa's Snifnug, which are like the like other ones that are more expensive for sure. So we'll see. If it ends up breaking down and not being good, I might redo this with like the 2 yarns that I've just mentioned in the future, but who knows. Okay, we've got one more project and I've kept it last because you maybe were sick of hearing me talk about socks. There's one more pair of socks to talk about. And these are the like July sock pattern for Sari Nordland's Sock Cal, Summer Sock Cal that she hosts every year. The first one in June were my Summer Solstice socks, which were an absolutely stunning cable and lace pattern, long leg, beautiful, cuff down. This is the Minerva socks, and they're the July pattern, and they're toe up. Don't know if you can see this. It's not going to be very good because it's very scrunched up, but it's a twisted stitches, and it's like a tulip. So they're toe up, and you get this like French heel, which is supposed to mimic a heel flap and gusset. So it's like a slip stitch heel, and you don't actually have to pick up any stitches. You just do this with decreases. It was my first time doing this sort of heel construction because I've not done that many toe up socks, and this is why I love Sari Norden's pattern so much, because you could just trust her, follow the instructions that she was giving you, and everything would work out. Like, I didn't need to read ahead and try to visualize what was happening or what was going to happen. I just had to do it, and it would happen, and it would give me a good result. So that was great. It was fun. I think I may have done the foot a tiny bit too long, like maybe 5 rows or something, and I should have started sooner, but I'm not gonna redo it, and yeah, that's fine. I have some socks that the foot is too small, and they're quite uncomfortable, so I guess having the foot being too big might be better. I also did my like mirrored knit front back for like this toe up sock that I learned in my previous project. The pattern repeat is shorter than the summer solstice, so it's like easier to get like one pattern repeat done a day or something. You see the end of it quite like faster. I don't like these as much as I liked the summer solstice. Like, not mine specifically, but just the pattern in general. I think it's really pretty, but I don't know. I don't think it's the best sock pattern. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I don't like it, but I don't like it as much. So I decided to use a yarn that I didn't like either, just to like get rid, because what I'm looking forward to doing is the August pattern, and then hopefully the September pattern that uses the leftovers. So I'm using West Yorkshire Spinner Signature 4-ply in the colorway Candy Floss or Bubblegum. I think it's Candy Floss. It's like this Barbie pink, and I really like this sock usually because it's like Blueface Leicester, very warm, very plump. I like the gauge I get with the 2mm. I'm doing the size 1 and I'm using 2.25 because I thought that the twisted stitches would be quite constrictive and I didn't want to not be able to pass it over my foot. And the previous pair of sari I did also on 2.25 and it was great. So yeah, this yarn is actually not the best. I think for this pattern, the twisted stitches, I don't know. I don't think that this yarn highlights them as much. Like, it's not as round as some other yarns may have been. Like, the stitch definition is fine. You can still see the pattern. And the color, I think, is good in the sense that, like, it doesn't obscure the stitches. Like, it's not too dark. I don't know. It's just, I'm feeling lukewarm about the pattern and I'm feeling lukewarm about the yarn. So, as you can tell, it's not my favorite project. But I'm on a deadline, wanting to finish these by the 1st of August, and then I'll be jumping headfirst into the August pattern, which I am feeling much more excited about, because it's a ruffled sock, which I've been saying I want to do, and I'll be using some yak yarn from Regia, and it's going to be so plush and lush and beautiful, so I'm more looking forward to August. So sorry for being so negative, but I'll still wear them. Like, who doesn't want more hand-knitted socks? And the leg of this is going to be much shorter, so I think I'm just one pattern repeat away from the end of that, and then I'll have to do the second sock. So yeah, that brings us to the end of my items. I have like sort of 2 sets of acquisitions. Basically, I have all this new birthday yarn and like project bags and needles, and I talk about all of that in my previous video, like I've said, so you can go check that out because I won't show it here. And then the second thing is that I've bought quite a lot of hand-dyed yarn because Nervous Fiber was having that sale and she was closing down. Then Zakami was having their like pre-ordering summer collection, which I should be getting quite soon because they've just said on Instagram that they're like just finishing up like some of the dyeing. So yeah, and I kind of took inventory of my hand-dyed yarn. I used Ravelry for that, so stay tuned for the Ravelry video. I will show you an amazing thing that you can do with your stash there. It's so fun. So I took inventory of all my hand-dyed yarn, and I realized that I know what it is all for. Like, I have plans for them, it's really rare for me to buy yarn without knowing the purpose of it, because I need to know how much I need to buy for it. Like, I can't just buy a quantity and then, yeah, anyway. So I thought it could be a really fun video idea to show you my hand-dyed yarn and tell you what projects I want to do with it, and to kind of structure it in the way of what projects can you make with one skein of hand-dyed, what projects can you do with 2 skeins, 3, a half skein, like leftover hand-dyed. I thought it could be really fun to do that. So I will be filming this maybe in 2 parts, or maybe like over the course of a few weeks to make it more manageable, and then I'll be editing and giving you that video. So yeah, if you want to see that, then make sure that you're subscribed if you aren't already, and make sure that you're keeping an eye out for this hand-dyed special. And I've been kind of on a kick to use my hand-dyed. Like I said, I think I'm going to be trying to do 1 hand-dyed project a month to try and make use of the stock I have before I think about buying new stock. And I'm going to be quite disciplined with that, even though dyers always come up with wonderful, beautiful colorways. But I want to appreciate the hand-dyed that I have already, and fall in love with the colors all over again, like I did when I first purchased them. I want to see what they look like knitted up in items and what they look like on me. The other news is that I will be going to London next month in August. I probably will still do a podcast beforehand, so I don't know why I'm saying that now. But if you have any yarn store recommendations, then please be sure to let me know. I've already asked on Instagram and I've gotten quite a few good recommendations, but I'd love to hear like additional thoughts and feelings. Like, if you have a favorite yarn shop, or if you feel like I should visit a yarn shop, tell me why. Like, what is good about it? I don't have that much time in London, but I'll try and hit at least 2, maybe 3 if time allows. But one thing that I definitely will do is check out my Ivory Room, and my trip coincides with her knit night on the Friday night, so I'll be going to her knit night, and I'm really excited to visit that shop, to do an in-person knit night, and to meet her. Like, she's a lovely person, and I love her taste in yarns, and I can't wait to just discuss knitting for hours with people. My plans and future cast-ons, well, I'm gonna do the August socks from Sari when that comes out. I'm also planning to do a crappy stash busting sweater, DK weight, but I think I'm gonna be recording a project diary style vlog video where I'll be recording bits on that as and when it happens, and then edit it in one big video at the end. So I think I'll do that. And I'm very looking forward to that. And I think what I want to do is have that done by my trip to London, and then take some photos of it in London. That could be really cute. And it's like a nice deadline. It's in like 5 weeks. So I think I have time to make a sweater in 5 weeks, even though I've got quite a lot on the needles now that I need to finish. And then, ooh, yeah, plan is I have a hat to do for my dad. Dad, if you're watching, I haven't forgotten about you. I promise the hat will be coming. I've ordered the yarn, so once that arrives, I'll be casting it on, and then you can't watch it while I talk about it on the podcast. I'm also doing a pair of socks for my boyfriend right now for his birthday. It's a surprise, that's why I haven't shown it. It's nothing exciting, it's like just a 3x1 rib sock, so yeah, that's also something that I want to finish by his birthday. But yeah, ideally I think I'd like to squeeze in 1 or 2 more summer projects, maybe 1 fingering or like 2 DK ones. But I'm also quite looking forward to autumn already. Like, a lot of people have been saying that as well, so as much as we love the summer projects, I think no one can take the wool away from us, especially in the UK. Yeah, thanks so much for checking in, guys. I have missed you. I have missed filming. It was good having a break, like it was relaxing, but also I needed this outlet. I need to be giving all my thoughts about yarn out loud. Hear your opinions, hear your advice. Remember to go check out the Ravelry group. It would really mean a lot to me if you introduce yourself there. There's an introductions channel where you can talk there. There's also a self-promotion thread where you can shamelessly plug any business you have, like patterns, yarn, stitch markers, project bags, a YouTube channel as well. Like if you have one, then go on the self-promotion thread and give a link to that. If you're overwhelmed at like Ravelry forums and everything, I've put links on like how to use the forum and kind of basic like Ravelry etiquette, or like links where you can ask questions if you're still not sure how to use. It's just take it easy, take it one step at a time, and at the end of the day, all that you really need is to just join the group, and then you can chit chat in the chat thread, and you don't need to use all the other functions. But yeah, I'd love to see you there. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't hesitate to like it, comment to let me know, share it with your friends, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you all in a future video, either the Ravelry one or something else. Hopefully the Ravelry one will be coming next week, but no promises. Okay, bye everyone, happy knitting, and I hope that you're doing great wherever you are.